Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas. I forgot my bell. Anyway, Merry Christmas. I hope you're all having a lovely festive season. And I thought I should try to fit in a Christmas themed video before Christmas Day. So I decided to do my favourite Christmas films. Although this is a list, it's not a top 10 list, they're overdone, and top 5 list, they're overrated. This is a top 8 list, people, because 8 often feels left out. Okay, so let's go on with this. I should say, by the way, that my definition of a Christmas movie is that it has to have Christmas in it at some point. It doesn't necessarily have to revolve entirely around Christmas, but it has to be there. I know a lot of people. I had this argument with Callum and Alan over in Here Shifty Bun last year about what Christmas movies were, and they talked about like The Great Escape and other films, and I felt that for me, a Christmas movie has Christmas in it. I know there are a lot of movies that remind people of Christmas because that's when they watched them as a kid, and I have films like that as well. But these films specifically are revolve around Christmas time. Okay, let's start with number 8. We've got Trading Places, directed by John Landis, released in 1983, just off of the back of The Blues Brothers. It stars Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Denham Elliott. It follows Dan Aykroyd's character, Louis Winthorpe III, and Eddie Murphy's character, and they trade places. Can you believe it? By going by the title of the film, can you believe it? They actually trade places. The whole setup is that these two old, miserly, rich owners of a trading company or stockbrokers, they decide to have this little bet. And the bet is, does it matter whether you are given the opportunity, whether you're given the environment, or are you always born to either succeed or fail? And what they do to settle this bet between the two of them is they take Dan Aykroyd's character, who is one of their most promising employees, and they tear him down. They take everything away from him. They take all of his money away from him. They frame him for a crime. They ruin his relationship with his fiancée, and he's basically left destitute. At the same time, they take Eddie Murphy, who is homeless and is a criminal, and they've put him into Dan Aykroyd's job, and they want to see, will the homeless guy excel just because he's given the opportunity or not. So that's the setup for the movie. It's very funny. There's some great Christmassy moments in this. There's also New Year at the end of it as well, so it sort of encapsulates the whole festive season. And Jamie Lee Curtis has never been so hot in her life. And Denham Elliott's just phenomenal. This is everybody at the top of their game. John Landis at the top of his game before the tragedy that struck during the making of Twilight Zone. You've got Dan Aykroyd, just phenomenal, playing this really stuck-up character, but a stuck-up character that you actually root for a little bit and enjoy and sympathise with. And Eddie Murphy's just a tour de force by him again. Very cool, but very funny, and Karate Man. I shouldn't have thrown that in there. That's like joke Tourette's. Anyway, so that's Trading Places. Definitely watch it. Oh, and look out for Dan Aykroyd's smuggling a large salmon in his Santa beard. It's classic. Okay, so number 7 we have Gremlins, released in 1984, directed by Joe Dante and stars Zach Galligan and Phoebe Cates. It's a film that always makes me think of Christmas. Whenever I watch it, it always makes me think of Christmas, because not only is it set at Christmas, but it also was always on at Christmas. So funny that TV programmers would put a Christmas film on at Christmas time. Sneaky bastards. Anyway, Gremlins, it opens up with this father who's trying to find his teenage son I'm going to say birthday present, a Christmas present on Christmas Eve, and he can't find anything. He ends up in this old Chinese curiosity shop where one thing leads to another, and he finds this animal that they have, this pet that they have called a mogwai. It's a small little, almost humanoid shape, but fur and looks a little bit like a koala bear. And he finds this and he decides he wants to buy this for his son. So he ends up getting it. He takes it to his son, but he's told that there are certain rules. never feed it after midnight, never put water on them, and also that sunlight will kill them. So they're told that. He takes the mogwai to his son, he gives him it as a present, and lo and behold, it's Christmas time. His son drops water on the mogwai, who's called Gizmo, and it makes him multiply into these other sort of gremlin creatures. Then they eat after midnight, and all hell breaks loose, and they all become these sort of monsters. It really is essentially like a 1950s monster movie. This could be The Blob or something like that. It's got this quirky sensibility, the same way that Joe Dante has that in a lot of his other movies, Inner Space. Even something like The Howling has moments of it. What other movies has he done? Explorers, it's in that as well. He's a really, really underrated filmmaker, and it's a real treat. You kind of root for the bad guys at times as well. You root for the monsters; they are enjoyable. And you've got lots of people getting caught up in Christmas tree lights and just this whole town becoming this like apocalypse during the Christmas season, which doesn't sound good, doesn't sound like it'd be happy, but there's a lot of happiness in this film as well, a lot of sort of family orientated stuff. My girlfriend watched it for the first time, was it last Christmas or the Christmas before, and she didn't like it, but she doesn't really like horror movies, and she thought it was a bit too gruesome, but I think it's a lot of fun. And I would really highly recommend it. And I would also see that Phoebe Cates was one of my first crushes ever. She's just beautiful in this. Anyway, okay. Number 6, Die Hard, directed by John I'm in Prison McTiernan. I shouldn't make jokes like that, because number 1, they're bad, and 2, they're in poor taste. Die Hard is an action movie. If you haven't seen Die Hard, I mean, come on, you must have. Released in 1988. John McTiernan directed other movies like Predator, 13th Warrior, Last Action Hero, Nomads, and he's a good director. He's a good, solid director. I've made a video about some of his films before, and Die Hard is probably his crowning achievement. It is one of the best action films ever made. It follows Bruce Willis, who is cop John McClane, who is going to visit this huge skyscraper where his wife works at Christmas, but she's sort of estranged from him. They're in this sort of kind of divorce situation, and while he's there, terrorists also come into the building, and they seal it off, and they take John McClane's wife hostage. And they're headed up by Alan Rickman playing the main villain, and he's just phenomenal in this movie. Alan Rickman's phenomenal in everything. There are a lot of laughs in it. But it's high octane stuff as well. It's just a phenomenal movie. That's my phone going. As Bruce Willis's character is stuck in the skyscraper trying to defeat all of the terrorists to save his wife. It is typical 80s stuff, but it's very, 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 very good 80s stuff, and it is set at Christmas as well, so there's some Christmas stuff going on there. Alright, number 5, Batman Returns, released in 1992. I'm not going to talk too much about this movie because I really want to do some in-depth stuff on this, because this is like one of those films that I think is so underrated. It's the second Batman movie. Tim Burton directed it around about the time where he was doing Edward Scissorhands, and then a little bit later he did Ed Wood. So this is really Tim Burton at the top of his game, and it's the story follows the exploits of the Penguin and Catwoman and a villain called Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken, as the Penguin tries to he's in for a power grab, tries to become mayor of Gotham, and Batman's trying to stop him, and Batman gets framed for a murder, and there's a whole lot of other stuff going on. But it's quite a complex film for a superhero movie. There's not a lot of the superhero in it, but when he is in it, it's great. It is quite violent, and it is probably the darkest, most brutal version of Batman that we've had. But Michael Keaton just knocks this out of the park. He's incredible, absolutely incredible. I love Christian Bale's Batman, but Michael Keaton to me just defines that role, just in the same way that Sean Connery defined that role, being the first, not that role, never played Batman. Hello, I'm Batman. That was a really bad Sean Connery impersonation. So, yeah, Sean Connery defined the James Bond character, because he was the first person really on the big screen to play him, and I think Michael Keaton defined Batman in a cinematic way as well, even though Christian Bale was phenomenal. And do you know what? Val Kilmer was alright. I know Batman Forever's not everyone's cup of tea, but Val Kilmer was okay. And I like George Clooney. It's just, yeah, the less we say about that, the better. Alright, it's one of the most visually stunning films I've ever seen. It's a visual masterpiece. It looks incredible, this movie. And it's also very, very clever, because although Batman's not in the film very often, it explores his character through the other characters in the movie. It explores his character. The Penguin's an orphan, just like Bruce Wayne was, and it explores how that could have twisted Bruce Wayne to be not the hero that he is. Catwoman has problems with the split personality, night and day. She's Selena Kyle one moment, she's Catwoman the next, and Bruce Wayne struggles with that as well in the movie. Christopher Walken plays Max Schreck, a little homage to the name of the actor who played Nosferatu, and he's the businessman who doesn't use his success for good. He uses it to try to manipulate people and grab more power. So it explores, in Batman's character, Bruce Wayne is a successful businessman. So he too could have went down that route, but he doesn't. He uses his success to help people. So anyway, I'm getting far too into this. Batman Returns. Definitely watch it. It's a phenomenal movie, and there's a lot of Christmas stuff in there as well, especially the ending of it, with the snow coming down, and it looks phenomenal. And you get Danny Elfman's great score. Talking about Danny Elfman's great score, number 4 is The Nightmare Before Christmas, directed by Henry Selick. A lot of people think it's directed by Tim Burton. Tim Burton helped come up with the story, and I think he came up with a lot of the visual designs of the characters. But Henry Selick directed this, and if you watch Coraline, which is also directed by him, you can see that this guy is really talented. So it's a stop motion movie. It's a musical as well. Danny Elfman does all the music for it. He also does the singing voice of the main character, Jack Skellington. And it's about how you have these different mythical towns that all represent the major holidays, but they're unaware of each other. So you get Halloween Town, where they go out into the real world and scare people and do all sorts of things, Halloweeny, if that's a word. But Jack Skellington, who sort of runs the Halloween celebrations, he becomes bored of it, and he discovers that there's such a place as Christmas Town, and he decides to kidnap Santa and do Christmas himself. It's a really great film. The stop motion animation is phenomenal. The music is it's one of the best musicals ever made, there's no doubt about that. And there's some really touching moments as well. And it's just the whole movie is just fantastic. What's great about it is that it works as a Halloween film and it works as a Christmas film, so you can watch it whenever you want, really. Me and my girlfriend have a little tradition now where as soon as Halloween's over, Nightmare Before Christmas is really the first movie that we watch, and that's like getting us into November watching Christmas films, and it's good for that. But you could watch it on Christmas Eve, you could watch it around about Christmas, no problem. So that's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Fantastic movie. Alright, number 3 is a funny one because it's called Shop Around the Corner. It was directed by Ernst Lubitsch and it was released in 1940. It stars Jimmy Stewart and Margaret Sullivan, is that her name? And it also has Frank Morgan, who was the Wizard of Oz. Anyway, in the original film. So, Shop Around the Corner, you might also have seen the remake of this, which was You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. Shop Around the Corner follows James Stewart's character as he works in this store, this sort of, I don't know what sort of store you would call it, it's like a sort of clothes store, it's like a convenience store. No, it's not a convenience store. what am I saying? They sell clothes and trinkets and things like that. And he is the sort of second in charge in that shop. At the same time, Margaret Sullivan's character comes in as a sort of trainee sales assistant, and they just hate each other. They absolutely hate each other. But at the same time, they have kind of anonymous pen pals. Jimmy Stewart is writing to this woman, and Margaret Sullivan is writing to this man, and they both have fallen in love with the person that they're writing to, but they hate each other in real life. They don't realise that it's actually the two of them. So that's the sort of story of it. A lot of it is set in and around Christmas. While Christmas doesn't take centre stage, there is a lot of it there as well. This is the movie, like everyone talks about It's a Wonderful Life, but people forget about Shop Around the Corner. First of all, it's got that 1940s comedy gold where every single person is a great actor, and the chemistry between everyone is just perfect, and they kind of talk more like normal people to me in a lot of ways. That the conversations ebb and flow, and it's wonderful to watch, and it's definitely a favourite of mine. I would highly recommend it to watch at Christmas or any time of the year. Actually, it's not too steeped in Christmas that you couldn't watch it elsewhere, but it's a good one to watch, and it would make a great double bill with It's a Wonderful Life. Anyway, that's Shop Around the Corner. Moving on to film number 2. Now this is a bit of a cheat because I've got more than one film here. I've got Scrooge the Musical, which was released in 1970, directed by Ronald Neame, and stars Albert Finney. It has Alec Guinness in it as well, Kenneth More. You might also hear it as called A Christmas Carol, the musical, which is probably the correct name for it. But the DVD version I've got, it calls it Scrooge. It was released in 1970. It's, to me, one of the best musicals ever made, but it's really unknown compared to a lot of other musicals. I mean, it's not as good as Mary Poppins, but not many things are. But it's right up there, it really is. The production values are phenomenal. Every single song in this movie is brilliant, and they do this incredible thing towards the end where we all know the story of Scrooge, of A Christmas Carol. When Scrooge is redeemed, they do a reprise of all the different songs that you've already heard throughout the movie, and it's one of the most joyous moments in cinema history. It's just phenomenal, and if you're really looking for something to make you feel Christmassy, this is the film for you. I cannot recommend the Scrooge the Musical enough. Albert Finney's phenomenal as Scrooge, and he sings a song when he realizes that he needs to change his life, which is really, it's heartbreaking but uplifting at the same time, and it's a phenomenal movie, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Okay, so along with this, we've got Scrooge from 1951, directed by Brian Hurst, and it's probably the best version of A Christmas Carol, starring Alistair Sims. Just everything about it is phenomenal. I love it in black and white. There's a colorized version. I wouldn't go for that one, but Alistair Sims is the best Scrooge, basically, that we've ever had. He epitomizes the book, and this although there are a couple of things I think that are added in that aren't in the book, for the most part this is very faithful. And the joy in Alistair Sims when he has his redeeming moment, it's priceless. It really is. It's a phenomenal film. I tend to watch the musical more, to be honest, but I recognise that this was the first version of A Christmas Carol that I saw, and there are some frightening moments in it as well, because people forget that A Christmas Carol is a ghost story and there are frightening moments. It is supposed to be scary. Okay, so that's the 1951 version. Honourable mentions: Scrooge from 1988, directed by Richard Donner, who directed Superman and Lethal Weapon. And Scrooge has Bill Murray. It's updated into the contemporary world of the time. He plays this television executive rather than the sort of miser, and he's just mean-spirited to everyone. And at the same time, his television company are trying to put on this live production of A Christmas Carol on Christmas Eve, and he's being visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future at the same time. It's really great, very funny. Bill Murray's just phenomenal. Bill Murray's always phenomenal, let's be honest. And highly recommended. Highly recommended. Okay, Karen Allen's very good in it as well. And lastly is the Muppets Christmas Carol, which was released in the, when would that have been, mid-90s, 93, 94, something like that. Starring Michael Caine, directed by Brian Henson. It's, you would think, oh, it's a Muppet movie, but it's actually one of the best versions of A Christmas Carol. It's phenomenal. There's great music in it. The production values are fantastic. How they work out to do everything with all the different Muppet characters is really great. Michael Caine makes a brilliant Scrooge, and the direction's phenomenal. It's really the high point, other than the storyteller, for Jim Henson's company. It really is. It's a great movie, and you'll have a big smile on your face by the end of it. That's all I can say. Loads of jokes, a lot of heartfelt moments. But then, you know, this is the thing that shows the strength of A Christmas Carol as a story, because there's so many different versions, but loads of them are really great. And yeah, if you're a fan of Christmas movies, you might find yourself watching 2 or 3 different versions of it and not getting bored. And that's the way I feel about those versions. So I would watch any of them. I really would. They're all great in their own right. Okay, number 1, not going to be much of a surprise. 1946, It's a Wonderful Life, starring Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed and Lionel Barrymore. I just came back, well, last night I went to a screening of It's a Wonderful Life. Me and my girlfriend go there every Christmas. I went with a couple of friends. Really, it's a lovely thing to do. If you have that round your way, where there's like a classic cinema, and this cinema's like it's got all its original fittings from like 1940, from like the 1940s and 50s and things like that. If you go, if you get the opportunity to do that, watching it just with film fans, just with people who love that, and no one's talking over you or anything like that, it's it's an emotional thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's like pure cinema to me, being in a cinema full of people who are just there because they love this film, you know. And I would definitely recommend doing that if you do. There's a big ruptures of applause at the end, and you know, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's a Wonderful Life. Bad joke. So It's a Wonderful Life. It was based on a short story, I think, called The Gift, and it follows Jimmy Stewart's character, George Bailey, who is down on his luck. He's had this life where he's always trying to do the best by everybody, but he's got all these dreams and aspirations about leaving this small town and traveling the world and seeing things and experiencing things and going to college and doing all these great things. But his responsibilities to the people around him in his community, every time he wants to do something for himself, something happens where he has to be the one who saves the day. And then comes the dark moment where he needs everybody's help. And the whole idea of the story is, it's kind of a little bit like Christmas Carol in some ways. It has this character called Clarence, who's an angel, who's sent down from heaven to help George Bailey because everybody in the town's praying for him. And George Bailey says, "I wish I'd never been born." And the film is kind of about how that becomes true, and George Bailey gets to see this town and how it would be if he were never born. It's my favourite film of all time. Do you know that? It really is. And I know that's cliched to say that, and some people might find the film overly sentimental. Frank Capra, who directed it, is just a phenomenal director. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Arsenic and Old Lace. You know, he did so many phenomenal movies, but this is his crowning achievement. It's perfect. It's the perfect film. There's nothing I would change in this film. There's nothing I would change at all. And I do personally believe Jimmy Stewart's performance, if not one of the greatest performances ever caught on screen, the greatest performance, because when he's suicidal, when he's kind and loving and caring, when he's at the end of his tether, when he's joyous, you feel it and you just believe every single moment of that movie. And it's got a really important message as well. And I'm not going to ruin it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but I'm assuming most of you probably have. I can't recommend It's a Wonderful Life high enough. I shouldn't have stopped there. I said I can't recommend It's a Wonderful Life. It's a movie that just I watch every year at Christmas, and it, it affects me on an emotional level that many films don't. And I can't recommend it highly enough. I don't know how many times I've said in this video I can't recommend this highly enough, but it seems to be quite a lot. And I think I'm going to go because my mouth is now dry. So I think I've been talking too fast. If you struggle to understand me because I've been speaking too quickly through this thick accent, I apologise. The important thing here is this. Number one, what are your favourite Christmas movies? I would like to know. Maybe there's some that I haven't seen that I should add to my collection. I would love to know that, and I can check them out before Christmas Day. And also, second of all, I hope each and every one of you has a very, very Merry Christmas. And I will be back soon. I don't know when. I might upload something Christmas Eve, but I wanted to just take the time to say that I know a lot of people have stuck with this channel when I've hardly uploaded anything to it. I've fallen away from YouTube. But I'm back now, and I can only thank people who have stuck with this channel. I really, really appreciate it. So have a great Christmas, a Happy New Year, and I will see you all soon. I hope Santa's good to you. Bye for now.